But if you do have that image of your life as you think it should be lived, and you end up not living it, that is, particularly if you can feel yourself slowly being pushed away from it, I think that's a terrible, terrible feeling.
Welcome to a thought-provoking exploration guided by the incisive wisdom of Douglas Murray, a renowned author and social commentator. In this series, we navigate through a tapestry of contemporary issues, from the intricate dynamics of body positivity and the competitive undercurrents of self-esteem, to the nuanced perceptions of success, intertwined with agency and the often overlooked role of luck. Douglas challenges us to think critically about the pervasive influence of monothinking and the growing trend of outsourced opinions in our society. He then steers us towards the profound importance of living authentically in our own lives and the courageous pursuit of goals, even amidst less than ideal conditions. Join us on this enlightening journey as we delve deep into these themes, each offering vital insights into understanding ourselves and the world around us in a more meaningful way.
I think men can be complicit in that as well. Yeah. The thrill when a friend bolds early, I think that's very common.
Thrill. There'll be a German word for that.
Of course.
Like Schadenfreude, but
yes.
specifically for the
scalp.
Yeah. Scalp and Freud.
I think lots of people do that. But it's a pretty bad thing to encourage among people. But yeah, I think it is part of the competition, taking out of the competition, for sure.
I was thinking as well about how material conditions, you were saying before, people's parents maybe had it better in some ways, but also would have had it way worse.
Yeah, of course.
Material conditions often don't impact people's demeanors in the way that they might have predicted. Like, rich people can be bitter idiots, and poor people can be grateful heroes.
Although, as George Orwell said, by the age of 50, every man gets the face he deserves.
What do you mean by that?
I think that's actually true. I think there's a certain age, it might not be 50 now, but it's a certain age where you do show your life on your face. Oh, yeah. I mean, for instance, somebody who's very profoundly depressed for a long time, it writes itself across the face. It writes itself in their eyes, I think. People, particularly unhappiness, writes itself on somebody's face. Joy does as well. I mean, if somebody smiles a lot, they have laugh lines.
Yeah.
And yes, there's a great truth in it. I mean, we know that because we judge people by their faces, by the way they interact with us, by the way they look at us. It's perfectly sensible.
Murray speculates on an intriguing aspect of social dynamics: the possibility that some individuals might not discourage friends from gaining weight as a means of maintaining a competitive advantage in the dating scene. This observation opens up a discussion on how body positivity can be influenced by personal competitiveness and social strategies, rather than solely by genuine concern for well-being or self-esteem. He then reflects on the impact of self-esteem and material conditions on people's behavior and demeanor. Murray suggests that self-perception and confidence are often closely tied to external conditions and societal standards. He explores how these factors can shape individuals' attitudes towards themselves and others, particularly in the context of physical appearance and social standing. Furthermore, Murray delves into the idiosyncratic nature of personal growth and success stories. He emphasizes that each person's journey is unique, with diverse challenges and triumphs. Murray argues that there's no one-size-fits-all narrative for success or self-improvement, especially in the realms of body image and self-esteem.
I was in the right place at the right time.
That can be the case. Not many people say that, but yes, some do.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in Britain in the 80s, for instance, it's a good time to make money. Easier, better than today. So some people will say, yeah, it was a great place at the right time. But most people do sort of vaguely think if they've made it that it was sort of preordained. I mean, we all do that to some extent. I often describe myself as being lucky and then need somebody to remind me of how hard I've worked. No.
I had a friend who joined Goldman Sachs in 1998, and he said he had an absolute golden period for about
10 years.
Yeah, a little bit less. He said it was already starting to wind down.
Before Lehman Brothers.
Yeah. Some of that was to do with DEI, a very early instantiation of DEI.
That's right. Yes, there's several books that make that clear in
Is that
subtext.
right?
Yeah, several books that make it clear about some of the hiring processes going on.
Yeah, like 2006, he was already seeing it. But he told me he made a trade on 9/11. He made a very particular trade and bypassed all of the security the limits on everything. And the pit boss or whatever, he's just some young dude. He's been there for 2 years, right? Out of whatever university or something.
And what did his boss think of the trade?
Came over and said, like, what the fuck are you doing? And he said, look at this. If this, then that. If this, then that. Ran it all the way down. He said, this is the outcome. This is what's going to happen. And he was like, I don't know what. So first off, he was concerned that it was going to go wrong. And then he made the most ungodly amount of money in the space of 3 hours, and then all the markets shut for 10 days from September 12th.
Yeah.
And the only organization that had spare capital was Goldman because of this particular trade.
Wow.
And he was basically told, we may need to cut this, I'll check with him. He was basically told, go home, don't tell anybody
of course.
that you made this.
He shorted the market. I mean, it was widely thought after 9/11 that because the stock market tanked, of course, immediately, and we didn't know if there was going to be a world war, or if this was a world war, it was regarded very swiftly as actually being the duty of Wall Street to not do that.
Murray begins by exploring the common tendency among successful individuals to attribute their accomplishments predominantly to personal agency and hard work. He delves into how this narrative reinforces the idea of meritocracy and self-made success. Murray acknowledges the importance of personal effort, but also invites us to question the completeness of this narrative in explaining one's journey to success. He then shifts focus to highlight the often understated role of luck and external circumstances in achieving success. Murray argues that factors such as being in the right place at the right time, inherent talents, and other serendipitous events play a crucial role in many success stories. He suggests that acknowledging these elements provides a more balanced and realistic understanding of how success is attained. Furthermore, Murray discusses the challenges inherent in objectively analyzing success stories. He points out that it's difficult to separate the individual's actions from the myriad external factors that contribute to their success. This complexity, according to Murray, makes it challenging to draw universal lessons or formulas for success, highlighting the unique and often unpredictable nature of each person's journey.
If it's been a long time since you were surprised by the opinion of your favorite thinker or writer or commentator or whatever it is, that's probably a reliable signal that they're not really thinking for themselves.
Yeah.
If you're just permanently, it's like an old leather pair of shoes. Here we go again. The COVID things happened and I can already predict such and such's opinion on it. You go, every single time, all of the time, every single time, you know the idiosyncrasies of this person's very, very particular worldview. Well, that's because it's not theirs.
Yeah, of course.
It's everybody else's. It's outsourced thinking.
And what's really sad about that is that it means that you're not really living your life. I mean, you're living a pastiche of...
Murray begins by highlighting the danger of assuming someone's entire worldview based on a single opinion they hold. He explains that this mono-thinking limits our understanding of the complexity and nuance of individual beliefs. Murray cautions against this oversimplification, which often leads to polarization and misunderstandings, urging a more thoughtful and comprehensive approach to understanding differing viewpoints. He then delves into the issue of outsourced thinking, where individuals rely on external sources like social media influencers or ideologically driven news outlets to form opinions. Murray warns that this practice erodes individuality and critical thinking skills, leaving people vulnerable to manipulation and groupthink. He stresses the importance of engaging with a variety of sources and perspectives to cultivate a well-rounded personal understanding of issues. Lastly, Murray issues a call to action for people to think more critically and to embrace the responsibility of forming their own opinions. He encourages a return to individuality where personal experiences, reflections, and reasoning guide one's beliefs rather than relying on external narratives. This, according to Murray, is essential for a vibrant and diverse society where ideas can be freely exchanged and debated.
A prescribed set of opinions. That's so sad. I mean, it's so sad. The wasted energies and wasted lives of people who've just downloaded a set of opinions and they're just running them. Well, that's not your life. It's just someone else's life. You're just replaying.
What was that quote you told me about being shunted to the side of the road of your own?
It's a Philip Larkin quote from a poem of his. Yes, it's a description of a couple, and he says that something is pushing them to the side of their own lives. It's a beautiful line. Terrifying line, horrifying line. It should make everyone judge for themselves.
What does it mean to you?
Oh, well, it means that there's a life that you hoped to live, a life you saw yourself living, and you got pushed to the side of it and ended up not living that life. I think a large number of people have that. Almost all unhappy people I've met have that feeling to some extent. And then you've got a choice of poisons, one of which is to choose the poison of other people held me back. Another is to face up to the fact that you were in some way a coward or a victim of circumstance or something else. But I think a lot, I mean, one thing that young people, can be encouraged to do is to set out the sort of life they would like to live, imagine the sort of life they would like to live, and then aim for it. And working it out is sometimes difficult, sometimes not. But if you do have that image of your life as you think it should be lived, and you end up not living it, that is, particularly if you can feel yourself slowly being pushed away from it, I think that's a terrible, terrible feeling.
Murray introduces the segment with Philip Larkin's powerful observation, the feeling of being pushed to the side of your own life. He unpacks this quote, highlighting its resonance with anyone who feels they've strayed from the path they had envisioned for themselves. Murray explores this sentiment of displacement, of watching life happen rather than actively shaping it. He then delves into the unsettling realization of being pushed away from the life you once envisioned. Murray discusses how easy it is to become a passive observer in one's own life story, often due to external pressures, societal expectations, or personal fears. This disconnection, he notes, can lead to a sense of loss and dissatisfaction, urging a re-evaluation of one's choices and direction. Finally, Murray presents the crucial choice, blaming external factors or embracing personal responsibility for the course of one's life. He argues that while it's tempting to lay the blame elsewhere, true empowerment and fulfillment come from acknowledging and exercising one's agency. Murray encourages taking control, making conscious choices, and actively participating in shaping one's destiny.
The thing with that is the difference between situations you find yourself in that are dangerous through choice and ones that you've been thrust into, and probably know that the consequence of being thrust into dangerous situation is much more likely to lead to PTSD and things like that than if you choose to. I've been fortunate in my life that most of the dangerous situations I've been in have been ones I've chosen to be in, and that's very different. But yes, I'm glad he found out that he was more courageous than he feared.
But think about that. What a beautiful line. To be more courageous than you feared you were. Right? This almost this war against yourself.
Yes, that's right.
Fear of your own nature.
Well, it's perfectly sensible. I mean, there's a horrible example I sometimes use, but I mean, if you're ever mugged for your wallet let alone you were mugged with somebody else, let alone if you were mugged with a girl that you were with or looking after, and you just handed it over. There's several reasons that it's worth handing over the wallet for. One of which is like, why do I need to risk getting shot for like
Stabbed.
or stabbed for $100 and a
few phone calls to the bank.
Yeah. So that's like the reason to hand over the wallet. Oh, what do I care? The reason not to hand over the wallet is, are you sure that you're not going to spend the succeeding weeks dreaming dreams of pornographic violence against your attacker and thinking of how you would torture him if you could get your hands on him, and the brutal way in which you would have revenge if you ever find him?
It might be easier to just get your head kicked in a bit.
Yes. And are you sure you can live with the version of yourself that is you handing over the wallet?
Murray begins by referencing C.S. Lewis's sermon, which eloquently speaks to the pursuit of truth and beauty in imperfect conditions. Lewis's words, Murray notes, resonate deeply in a world where ideal circumstances are more the exception than the norm. He explores Lewis's perspective that the quest for higher ideals shouldn't be postponed waiting for perfect moments, but rather embraced in the here and now amidst all its flaws. He then discusses the notion that conditions for pursuing one's goals are rarely, if ever, optimal. Murray reflects on the common human tendency to wait for the perfect time or situation to start working on our dreams. He argues that this waiting game often leads to missed opportunities and unfulfilled potential, as the perfect conditions we await seldom arrive. Finally, Murray offers a rallying call to action. He encourages listeners to start working towards their dreams and aspirations, despite the challenging circumstances they might find themselves in. Drawing on Lewis's sermon and his own insights, Murray stresses the importance of action over inaction and the power of starting somewhere, anywhere, as opposed to not starting at all.